I am Anasia Obioha, and I'm here with Sheen magazine. Boy, have I been through some trials and tribulations to get me to this point. I grew up in a city called Oak Park, Michigan, and I graduated from Michigan State University, where I studied journalism. So right after graduating from Michigan State, I worked as a freelance writer in newspaper and in television. I wrote for the TV station there. Eventually, I landed in public relations, working for the mayor of Detroit. That was my first PR job. I worked as his deputy press secretary, and that was an interesting, fun job. I was just kind of thrown in there. And I did that, and I was laid off from that position. And I said, you know what? I've always wanted to move to California. So why don't I take this opportunity? I was getting paid and getting my severance package. And I said, well, I'll just move out to California. It was really difficult to just maintain my lifestyle and my living out here. I was getting my check, my full pay for a year, but then after that ran out, I needed to get a job. So I went back to school, got my master's degree in business administration, and once I completed that, I was offered an opportunity to work in public relations in healthcare. I did it for a major healthcare organization out here. And I did that for a few years, and then I ended up at another healthcare organization doing media relations. And what that means is pretty much like when you have a doctor, at the healthcare organization doing great things, you want to publicize it. So you get them in the media, you write about it, and just really promoted all the amazing work, that these individuals were doing. And one of the individuals that I did media for was a neurosurgeon, and I was just so proud to be able to work for him and publicize the work, because he's an African-American man, chief of neurosurgery at one of the largest, most world-renowned medical institutions in the country. And here it is, I'm like a part of his team. So that really made me feel amazing. But I did that and got married, and things changed because I had gotten pregnant. While I was pregnant, I was going to that institution, the Cedars-Sinai. I'm sure many people heard of it. They had always, received rave reviews, and a lot of celebrities have kids there. And I was seeking, medical attention there and going there for my prenatal care. I had a little bit of concerns early in my pregnancy. I had early bleeding, but it had dissolved itself, and so I had continued to go to the doctor. She didn't have any concerns. I received the minimum standard of care, and as far as she was concerned, I was healthy. But eventually, I started to have some problems. I was telling her I was feeling a lot of back pain and cramping, and it just didn't feel right. And she said, no, you're okay. I even asked her for an ultrasound because she wasn't given ultrasound. She had done one for the anatomy scan at week 27, but she said, you don't need another one until week 36. You only need one in your third trimester. So I trusted her, and that pain began to get worse. So I went to the doctor at about 31 weeks, and I thought I was having the baby early. They still didn't do an ultrasound, but they did run a stress test to make sure that the baby was okay. And they said he was fine, but they said, you have a urinary tract infection. And they said, so take the medicine. That's probably what's causing the pain. So I took the urinary tract infection medicine, drank some water. They sent me home. Well, a couple weeks later, I went back to the doctor again. I said, I'm still having that pain. And she said, oh, I'm sure it's still the urinary tract infection. Just keep taking the medicine. You'll be okay. Still no ultrasound. A couple of days after that, I told my husband, I said, I don't feel the baby moving. This is weird. And she never one time mentioned anything about kick counts. So I wasn't paying attention to how often my child was moving, but I knew it just felt like he wasn't moving at all. Like I didn't feel him. So that day we went to the doctor, and they told me that my baby had passed away in my womb and that there was no cardiovascular activity. This at the institution that I work for. I mean, it was so easy for me to just go across the street and go to a doctor's appointment or go get checked on. And there were just so many things that she missed You know, I mean, there were times at my doctor's appointment where she had mentioned that I lost weight in my third trimester. And I said, well, why would that be? And she said, well, sometimes, you know, mothers just eat less in their third trimester because they feel full faster. Well, that was a sign that my baby had stopped growing and she just didn't catch it. So I was so disappointed and hurt, you know, from that experience that it really, you know, I delivered my son stillborn. The way they treated me at the hospital was horrible. My husband and I were put off in a totally different area. I understand that they didn't want us to hear the other babies crying because they thought it would be too traumatic and emotional. But I reported that doctor all the way up to the chief because I wanted her to know what went wrong. I wanted them to really look at everything, evaluate it, and figure out what they could have done better. No one ever came to me and said, you know, these are the changes that we made or we owe you an apology, nothing. And yet I took, you know, 6 weeks off like most people do after having a baby, and I went right back to work at Cedars-Sinai. And I remember being back at work, and even though I was working in neurosurgery doing media relations, they had asked me to fill in for my counterpart who handled media relations for OBGYN. And at that time, Judge Hatchett's daughter-in-law had passed away at Cedars-Sinai. And they were asking me to send statements on behalf of Cedars-Sinai to Dr. Osho and all these different media outlets. And it really hit me. I said, what am I doing? Here it is, I'm advocating for a place that didn't even treat me well, and I work here. So I went to a therapist. I shared my story with my therapist, and my therapist encouraged me to leave. I went on a medical leave, did some soul searching, resigned, and that was the best decision I could have ever made in my life. It really made me do some soul searching and figure out what it is that I wanted to do, what I was passionate about, and that is writing. I love to write. I love telling stories, but I wanted to do it on my own terms. That's what Sheen magazine allowed for me to do. They allowed for me to get back out there and start interviewing people, start writing again, interviewing people who I've admired, and it's been wonderful. I've also started my own PR firm, and I represent clients that I believe in them, and my values align with their values, and it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. It's been hard. I'm not gonna lie. It is not a game when you start your own company. You know, all the overhead and the money and stuff like that, but I love the flexibility. You know, since then I've had a son. My little boy is 16 months. I love having the flexibility to be with him without having to report to a boss or a boss telling me what to do. I love that I pick and choose my writing assignments. And I love that I'm doing what I truly enjoy. So I know that was a lot to say, but I'm happy to be where I am today despite going through such a painful experience. But I feel like I've turned that painful experience into my purpose. You know, what I would tell someone who's going through a period of soul searching to keep in mind is that you have a greater purpose. Sometimes you got to have some stuff shaken up. You got to have an earthquake to really get you to a point where you fall on your face and you ask God, what is your true purpose and where do you belong? For me, that was, you know, the stillbirth and losing my first son, Amari. But for you, it may be something else. It may be, you know, losing a spouse or separating from somebody, going through a divorce, whatever that is. And it's not at all to break you, but it's to show you how strong you are and how you can get through it. And sometimes without those things, you stay in a place that you're not supposed to be in. So I would say, if you're doing some soul searching, take the time to really surround yourself around people who are doing the things you want to do. Pray, meditate so you can hear, get off of social media, spend some time with just yourself so you can hear yourself think. And trust your instinct, trust your gut. You know, your heart tells you where you should be. So I just started my blog. I'm really excited about it. It's called accessmommyhood.com. And it's really more of an online magazine for It's not just for moms, it's not just for dads, it's for whoever is interested. However, there is a big focus on like family-friendly entertainment. So I go to press junkets for like TV shows and movies that are more family-focused. And I interview, you know, the actors and the people behind the scenes. And then I also do some interviews with moms who are doing amazing things, and they're entrepreneurs and they're involved in philanthropy. And at the same time, I'm telling you about what's going on with my life. So if you're at all interested, you know, feel free. I have my PR firm, which is Ascend Brand Communications. I have some amazing clients that I'm working with right now, one of which is Mara Hall. She's going to be on a show called Ambitions that airs on OWN. And I'm really proud to be working with her, another fellow Detroiter. Of course, I'm always writing, and you can catch some of my writings in Sheen magazine. Shout out to Sheen. Whoop, whoop. I love you guys. You know, feel free to reach out to me. I am on Instagram at publicity_goddess. And I'm also on Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook nearly as much. But you're certainly welcome to look me up there. And I'm on Twitter as Anasia Obioha.